Welcome to 28 and Searching. I'm your host Samantha, and today I have Don and Alex Morse on with me. Thanks for coming on my show, guys.
It's great to be on. We're looking forward to the interview.
So tell us a little bit about yourselves. Where are you guys currently located? How old are you guys? How many years have you been in your industry? That sort of thing.
Okay, I'll let Alex start.
Thank you, Dawn. So we are, a while ago we saw how there's kind of three phases in your life. The first phase is you're a kid up until 20. Then from 20 to 60, you're working for corporate America, raising kids and everything else. And then we saw a billboard that says that 1 in 6 people reading this will live to 100. So that third phase is from 60 to 100. And nobody, it's kind of, this is new territory. People don't know what to do in the third phase of life. And everybody that we had talked to that had retired in their early 60s, the highlight of their life was going to Costco. So we wanted to have a better life than that, kind of more interesting and more fun. So we are in our early 60s and living in Seattle, Washington. And so this is our third phase of life and our kind of a new venture for us in which we started a 3D photography, scanning, and printing business about 2.5 years ago. And that we look at doing this for the foreseeable future until, something like 80 or 85, and then we'll sell it for $1 gazillion and then just coast and travel until we're 100.
Wow, that sounds like a plan. So what exactly are your guys' job titles, and what does it mean that you do?
Well, we use the title of managing partners, but we could be co-founders, we could be whatever title we want to be. But basically, we have our daily operations that really, consist of running our studio. So we're a by appointment 3D photographer. We have a studio in downtown Kirkland. We also have 2 staff members that are 3D artists, but they're in the studio probably more than we are. We spend a lot of our time going out and marketing, doing different shows. We just got back from San Diego. We have a show in Chicago. We have the World Fair Nano in San Francisco coming up. So really what we have found in this new venture is that education is key. A lot of people heard about 3D because of the medical community, dentistry, and a lot of other things, but they really haven't seen it in a retail application where you actually have a storefront. So we spend a lot of our time talking about the technology as well as the printing. And so I would say most of what we do is marketing and building up awareness, so people know where they can go to capture those life events of a wedding, so they can get a wedding cake topper or a family portrait that they can send to the grandparents at Christmas. So that's what we spend most of our time doing, and then looking at new revenue streams or opportunities, and Alex can talk about that because that requires a lot of scanning and a lot more advanced technology than just our studio.
Yeah, so we started, we were lucky enough that when we first started, we hired a company to come up with a name for our company, and that was probably the best money we spent because they came up with Holodeck 3D Studios. And in the old days of Star Trek, a holodeck was where they're on a spaceship for quite a few years. So the holodeck allowed them to go into an alternate reality and be surrounded by trees or a city or whatever it may be. And so the company allowed us to come up with kind of a name that many people would recognize but also by using the word studios, it gave us the flexibility to do not only 3D photography and printing of people and pets, but then to now go into what we're going into is augmented reality and virtual reality. And it's called digital. We're creating digital assets for AR and VR. And that's where many companies from Microsoft and Facebook and Apple and Google are coming up with kind of the hardware and software to do alternate AR and VR, but they don't have they're limited on what's the content in that digital world. And that's where we can do scanning and provide that for companies to use for marketing or whatever other purposes they have, entertainment.
Yeah, that's very cool. So, I mean, you guys are talking about a pretty high-tech industry that you're looking in. It sounds pretty new. So, how did you get there?
So, let's see. Well, how did we get started?
Yeah.
Let's see, we call it the moon's aligning to kind of come to this spot. And kind of one thing is our third daughter was graduating from college. We were both not very satisfied, I guess, or fulfilled in our corporate lives anymore. And Dawn was managing an office in Seattle and one in San Francisco, and she had gone down to visit her parents in Palo Alto, close to San Francisco, and found a 3D statue or figurine or mini-me of her dad at their house. And it was 6 inches tall, and he's in a t-shirt and slacks, and his thumbs are in the belt of his pants, and he's 85 years old and has kind of a pot belly and looks exactly like him. And she fell in love with it in that this was exactly him. This was his personality, and this is a way she would always remember him. And so I don't think she even asked permission. She took it and brought it home and showed me, and we looked into what's this whole thing about 3D scanning and looked at different companies that do it. And we thought, you know what, this is a good time in our lives to take a risk to kind of start our own business while working at our existing corporate jobs. So we would, for the first year, we were working full-time for our corporate jobs and then doing this on nights and weekends. And then a year and a half ago, we gave up our full-time jobs and are doing this full-time and having a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so, since it's so unique what you guys are kind of doing, and the fact that you own your own business, would you say that if somebody was looking at going into this, do you think they need any sort of training or a degree or anything to kind of help them along if they wanted to get into this industry?
Let's see, well, to get into this industry, one, it's schools are just now kind of both at a community college level or technical college, and even the major four-year colleges are just now starting to, maybe in the last few years, I guess, be providing the education in 3D software that because the gaming industry uses this heavily, and that's what they're looking for. And people that are trained to do gaming can make very good money, but there's also somewhat limited opportunities in that there's a number of companies, but there's only so many games that can be created. And we're lucky to be here in Seattle that There's a lot of gaming companies as well as a lot of high-tech computer companies that are, we do have a talent pool, but across the United States, a lot of high schools now have 3D printers and are teaching kind of that kind of aspect. So the training's available and accessible. It just takes some time to learn it, and probably a good basis is that if you like photography and using Photoshop, that's a good start to going, yep, this is a passion for me. But if you even just want to do a quick test of whether you enjoy it, is if you really don't want diving into Photoshop, then you're probably like 3D like work. So.
I would kind of add that I'm not sure. One of my favorite billboards I saw in San Francisco was higher skill, not school. And I'm not totally convinced at all that this is a field where you need a degree. I think oftentimes, companies just use that in order to kind of, weed out the resume pool. But because what we have found is a lot of the 3D artists and people in this field are really self-taught. They have dived into so many different tutorials, trial and error, just in trying to make things work. So it's a very close-knit community where everybody, discovers a problem. They can't figure out how to fix something, and so they go out to the community and talk about their problem, and then they, try to figure out a solution for it. So, because the technology is so new, it's really just trial and error, and it's the people that don't mind doing the research to figure out how to do it that seem to be, some of the best, like for us, some of the best candidates for working with us.
Sure. And so if you're looking at that, what are some of the personality traits that you think really benefit somebody in this industry?
I think it's the people that take the initiative to do a lot of research and, just looking on, the web to figure out, what they need to do differently, how to solve a problem. So it's really those people that are self-motivated and self-guided that, are kind of research-driven. And, and those are for the people that are just actually doing, the work, the 3D modelers and stuff. It's probably a position where a lot of these people are very independent thinkers, not as much collaborative. Although they do collaborate when they're trying to figure out a problem and they're reaching out to their community.
Okay. And what would be the one trait that if somebody had it, it's the worst possible trait and they should just stay away from this? They should not go into this industry at all.
That would be somebody that is not detailed oriented. 3D artistry and work is very labor intensive and tedious. There's not a software program that's really easy to use, and they're not intuitive. And so you really need somebody that, pays attention to detail and can try to figure things out. And so somebody that just, wants it, just something that's easy and that they don't want to work really hard at, probably isn't a good choice for them because it's tedious work, I think.
Sure. And what are parts of your guys' personalities that have struggled with this career choice, where you've either had to change what you're doing or change yourself to kind of make you successful in what you do?
Well, I think I'll flip that question a little bit in that this is where I've come to appreciate maybe not only for our small business, but kind of across the board is that you need a yin and a yang, that Dawn and I complement each other really well, in that she's a very social person. People like her right away, and she connects with them to for whatever the issue may be. And then on the flip side, you need someone that's technical, that can handle, oh, why is this equipment not working, and can go ahead and either have the background or the skill set to learn to troubleshoot and resolve technical problems, and to go through all the different scenarios. So to tell you the truth, it's a very, very rare person that has that mix of being able to be detailed and sociable and technical and kind of well-rounded. So I think that's probably we backstop each other on many things.
Sure. And so since this is a kind of new industry, what are the different jobs that are available within companies like yours?
Well, I think as an industry, that certainly there's what's called business-to-business 3D, and just amazing things going on. And I actually recommend to every teenager that comes in our studio or that I meet at an event is to, definitely jump into the 3D world and to embrace it, because that's the future, if not now, within a few years. That manufacturing, and probably many of your listeners know of teeth that are being made at the dentist on a 3D printer. And the way he's doing that is scanning the mouth, and then it goes to the printer, and it comes out in a couple of hours and goes into the person's mouth, and versus a mold being made and going off for a couple of weeks before it comes back. Bones are being made, and let's see, as well as metal parts. I think one of my favorite stories is there's a local aeronautics company that they float a nugget of metal in the air through magnetism, and then they have three 3D printers that are adding metal to that nugget, and then they're rotating the nugget and building their part in midair until it's finally built. And then that way they're not constrained by having to start from a flat surface on the ground and building up.
Wow.
So, and then the other part of it is companies are learning that on training, say, service people on how to repair something, that by putting on something like a number of different manufacturers have goggles that are clear, that it allows you to be able to work on repair a part that's in front of you, but also to bring up an instruction manual or a video or any other information you need to actually repair that part when, and you're doing it at that time rather than having a book in front of you.
And you're using augmented reality goggles, so the person, if you're repairing something, somebody in a corporate headquarters can actually point to the wire that you need to cut, or whatever the case may be. So it's real time, somebody assisting you in training.
Wow.
So there's just so many different avenues, in 3D, from augmented reality and virtual reality and mm-hmm. The animation, the rigging, and texture and mesh, and just so many different avenues for people to learn about.
And there's a number of companies that do what's called reverse engineering, where they can go ahead and scan a part from 1935 and then turn it into a CAD file, and then be able to manufacture that part without any existing drawings. So that a lot of companies are doing that now because they no longer have the drawings that detailed how that part was made back 50 years ago.
So it's really expanding across many different industries.
Yeah.
Correct.
Almost every industry.
And certainly one of the fun things that's coming up is in fashion, where there's a number of companies that if you get scanned, then the scan knows every single dimension of your body, and then when you pick out that top or the dress or the suit or the jacket, then it's made to your dimensions rather than coming over as one of 10,000 and then having to be hemmed by a tailor.
Or altered. And so, we work with somebody that is moving their business to San Francisco because they really want to bring 3D into the fashion industry. And so they're looking, for people in that industry, in the fashion industry, which is really big because that's going to change the way that we just try on clothes. We are going to have virtual changing rooms where you might come into our studio, be scanned to make your avatar, then you upload your own model, your own avatar into, say, for instance, a Nordstrom or an Amazon site, and then you can drag and drop clothes and see what size fits better. Is it a small, medium, large? And maybe what designers work best. So you'll be able to try on clothes virtually as opposed to having to order something, find out it doesn't fit, and then ship it back. You'll be able to know that before you get a product, whether or not it will fit right. I don't think so. I think it's really going to change the world when we do 3D printing and manufacturing this way. We're going to be more of a just-in-time. If you need a screw, you're going to print a screw. You're not going to have a company in China that mass produces, 80 million screws and then ships it to the U.S. to sell. You're just going to be able to print whatever you need. So I think it's going to have a real impact on our economy, on the earth. I think we're going to really, if we just print what we need instead of manufacturing things in mass quantity that go into the landfill, I think we're going to have a good impact on the earth as well. I hope, at least.
Yeah.
And then you look at how much it costs or how much the carbon footprint is when you ship things via plane or train or boat. That's huge carbon imprint on our Earth. So I would hope that by just printing what we need helps us save the Earth as well.
Okay. And so what would be some of the drawbacks of your career choice?
It's hard. But you know what? We really like it. I think the drawback is that because it hasn't really been done before, you have to spend a lot more time researching and working with other people to figure out solutions to problems. And I don't know that that's a drawback, but it does take longer to do something because it hasn't been done necessarily before.
Well, and Dawn likes explaining to people that that if you're doing this industry, you're one of the early adopters of the 3D mindset and printing. And most 3D printing is from business to business, and our particular niche is one of the few that's actually business to consumer. Mm-hmm. That many people may have bought their own 3D printer and then used it a dozen times, and then now it's in the garage gathering dust or whatever. And whereas we've been around for a couple of years, and we are printing in a variety of materials and becoming a local resource for 3D questions or questions about the 3D industry. And that's what I enjoy, is being in that kind of subject matter expert type of field.
Sure.
And yeah, so.
Okay, so what has been your guys' worst day so far?
Let's see. Well, mine was coming back last week from San Diego with a trailer behind the car, and in California, it turns out you can only go 55 miles an hour when you're a car towing a trailer, whereas in Washington, you can go the speed limit. So getting a ticket was...
We were coming back from a show, and it was a long haul, and the last thing you want to do is get a ticket. But I think sometimes for me, I feel like I want to be more of a people pleaser, and I think for me, what's the most difficult is when people don't understand the limitations of the technology of 3D printing, that they get their, say for instance, we're doing a 3D print or a sculpture of them, they expect it to be photorealistic. And they don't really understand that the texture, the color, and everything is not quite as accurate as they think it should be. They think it should be exactly like their photo. And they just don't get that, here we're building a sculpture using hundreds of layers of a very, very fine powder. And then, using HP inkjet heads to apply the color line by line for it to build a plaid shirt or something. And their expectations are so high that, I think something looks absolutely gorgeous. I'm pleased with the print, and they're kind of like, oh, well, this doesn't look exactly like me. And, and I feel bad because I feel like I failed to really educate them that this is brand new technology. In 2 years, 5 years, whatever, that would change. But like right now, it's kind of like when TVs, like when the first flat panel TV came out, it was big, it was bulky, it was really expensive. Our first flat panel was that we bought was $6,000. Now you can buy one for $350. Mm-hmm. It's weight, the quality is so much better, and that's where 3D printing and technology is. In years from now, it's going to be bigger, faster, cheaper, better, all of those kinds of things. But we are in a society where we expect things to be perfect from the get-go. And on the retail side, that's just not the way it is. And so for me, it's just, it can be disappointing when I think something turned out fabulous because I know the limitations of a printer, whereas somebody just walking off the street doesn't. And, they see our 3D prints in our studio and think they're just absolutely amazing. But they don't really know those people. They don't really know that what they're looking at isn't an exact replica, that the person might be lighter or darker than what their print came out, or their color of their hair might be different. And so their expectations are much higher than what the technology can deliver right now.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a hard case whenever you're dealing with customers to be able to satisfy all expectations, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so if we flip it, though, what has been the best day of your guys' career so far?
Oh, let's see. Ooh.
I think lately, now that we're a little bit more established, we get some of the most bizarre requests. And I don't mean bizarre like in freaky or anything like that. It's just stuff that I would not have really ever considered us doing. But people have so many different ideas. And so I think for us, it's like, wow, that's really a clever idea. And then we have to research it and figure out how we're going to do it. And so I think for us, just on a daily basis, meeting people that have thought of different applications, or wanting to partner with us to do something that's different is really fun, because it's constant innovation, constantly learning to do something new and coming up with new ideas.
Well, and I think one kind of highlight is the first day we fell into our studio by chance through our banker, and it's in a great location, and we love being here by the Lake Washington and a marina, and lots of people are coming and going past us. And so so I think that first day of essentially hanging the shingle up onto the window and saying, yep, this is our studio, it was that mix of happiness and fear mixed in together of what did we get ourselves into. So, and that's, and what a great position to be in, I think, though, that here we are in that 60s neighborhood, and to be looking forward to things that are going to be changing, and we don't know what the future holds for us, but we know it's going to be exciting and different and new and creative, and we get to meet and talk to lots of people and do some traveling. So that's, so I think...
The other thing we always kind of, chuckled about when we first opened the business was that we would have people come in for these photo shoots. And, when they come in, they're typically coming in for some type of a life event. They're getting married and they want a cake topper, or they're pregnant and want to capture that moment, or they have a child that's graduating or something. So we end up spending, time with them and getting to know their story. And we always say that, art, what makes art valuable is the story behind it. And we always feel like we're creating a little bit of art because every sculpture has a story. And, oftentimes we'll get hugs by the people that we're scanning, and we're doing, whether it's kids or adults, and we're thinking, wow, when we're in the corporate world, nobody ever gave us a hug doing a talk,
Yeah.
So I think that's what was really surprising. Or we just have people that just come, and we have a little sofa and a chair in our studio, and people just come in and sit down and just start chatting. And, so I think, that turned out to be that unexpected pleasure of our business, too, that we really enjoy.
Yeah, and so if somebody wanted to open their own studio and they want to do this, what are some of the benefits that they can expect getting into this type of business decision?
Well, I think one of the things that benefits, I think the benefit is just, being your own boss, making your own rules, deciding whether or not you want to expand into different areas, or if you want to just stay, an expert in one particular 3D field or whatever. I do think it's a very, very difficult business because of the newness, and that it's a lot more expensive than people realize. The failure rate on 3D printing and the like is quite high, and so it's a difficult business. But I think it depends what your expectations are. But the benefit of, like any other small business, is really being your own boss and being able to behave your own way.
Okay. And what was the thing that kind of made you guys fall in love with this idea that you chose? I mean, you guys could have chosen anything to start your own business. What made you fall in love with this?
That nobody else is doing it, I think, is one for me. That for example, we'd looked at opening up a laser tag facility, and other people have done that, and they're kind of spread around the country, but a lot of them have failed.
Mm-hmm.
And
we looked at doing a winery, wedding venues. We looked at a lot of different business opportunities. But I think what this provided for us, one is its engagement with people, of constantly talking to people and keeping us active and engaged and socializing. And then also the keeping your technology skills up to date. Like if we were to start a different type of business, you may not have to be that techie. And we think, technology is going to be the wave of the future forever. And so it's great to stay engaged and constantly learning.
Well, and for example, we have I met a man that was probably like 5 or 8 years younger than myself, and he was struggling how to use his iPhone and that type of thing. And here I am juggling, 3 Macs and 5 PCs and a scanning capture booth with Raspberry Pis and things like that. So
lots of things that fail. Prepared.
Yeah. So I'm the yang part, remember, that gets to fix all those things, whereas Dawn just goes, "Oh, this doesn't work." So.
Okay, and so what you guys currently have any type of expansion plans or anything fun, new, exciting that's going on with your business?
We would really love to find a place in downtown Seattle to start another studio, and we've just been passively looking, like if we're in Seattle and we see space, we kind of look at that, because we think that there's so many tourists and locals in Seattle that have not seen this technology before. So we kind of are thinking about adding another store. And then the other side is really starting to create digital assets for the AR and the VR world, because they need things to be scanned, and artists that can do the touch-up work. And it's been really fun. We've done scanning work for a lot of companies that either they're using artificial intelligence, so they want us to scan somebody so they can make them talk and make them walk and do all the things that they want them to do, or avatars for video games and the like. So I think we're going to continue to expand that as well, so we can provide those assets to the AR and the AI community.
Very cool. Very cool. And what is your guys' website in case people are looking for you?
It's Holodeck 3D Studios. So HOLODECK 3D Studios.
Perfect. And so we've kind of gone over, what you guys are doing and this amazing, new technology that's kind of, being created, and how you guys are going into that career development of it. So I just have a few more questions for you. What did you guys want to be when you were kids?
So when I was a kid, I wanted to be a jockey for racing horses. And that was, kind of at the age of around 8. And unfortunately, I think I was 6'2" by the age of 12. So
that dream died.
Dashed, I weighed 100 pounds and was too tall. So.
And I think I just wanted to be rich. I didn't really care how to do it. And I thought at the time, brain surgeons probably a lot of money, but that just never even got close to happening. But, I think for me, I just fell into a career like most people. They don't really know what they want to do. And there's just an opportunity that opens up, and then you kind of follow that path, and then you have a career. And, and started working for high-tech companies and startups. And, I think that's where both of us got a little bit of the entrepreneurial spirit. Is he worked for biotech, and then I worked for high-tech. And, both with startups. And, they're just a lot of fun because you get to wear so many different hats and learn so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And what is the best piece of business advice you guys have received?
Well, I think for me, the best advice I received was from some friends that we met in the last 5 years. And his idea was that to be successful, you need three things. One is you need to have an opportunity. Then you need to recognize the opportunity. And then you need to be in a position to take advantage of the opportunity. And we have a friend that she's 22 in San Francisco, and she wants to be looking for a new job. And we know that all of the corporations now use LinkedIn, recruiters and headhunters to find people. And so looking at her LinkedIn, it was as no picture, no history, it was just a token LinkedIn type of thing. So she wasn't giving herself that having an opportunity. So she updated her LinkedIn, and a couple of days later received a call from a recruiter for Facebook and is going to be having an interview. So that's right. So you need to help create your opportunities a little bit, and that's where talking to people and letting them know that you're interested in doing something else.
Yeah, absolutely. And so if somebody's listening to this and they're currently really discouraged in their job and they don't love what they do, what would be your piece of advice to them at this point?
Well, for me, having 3 daughters.
We have lots of advice.
Yes, we have lots of. But to us, one is we feel that, stick with what you're doing until you are ready to, until you get your next opportunity. Because so often we hear that I'm just going to quit my job, I just don't like it. And we kind of feel like, what, you can still continue to work, but explore other opportunities. And like for us, when we changed, we still had one foot in the corporate world and then one foot into, the entrepreneurial world before we finally, jumped in with both feet. But that's kind of, risk mitigation for us, I guess. But and I think that's just the way we are. But I would just really say you have, there's so many hours in the day that you can work, and then you can build a second career or research a second career or take classes or whatever you need to do to get to where you want to go.
And I think for what I see is that kind of there's a couple of things that if you're interested in something that's totally outside your field, that you think, I enjoyed drawing and sketching floor plans of homes when I was 8 years old, but kind of lost that passion, and now you're doing something that isn't as much fun. Well, there's so many meetup groups that get together for sketch artists or whatever it may be. So I guess I would recommend testing the waters to see if kind of the people and the things they do are of interest to you and get you excited and enjoy what you're going to be doing. And then, of course, then there's you still have your regular full-time job. Can you volunteer to do something on weekends for you to test the waters and make sure that that's a passion for you to keep pursuing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love what you guys are doing. It's really exciting, interesting, new. I am ecstatic that you guys came on and talked to me. Thank you so much for coming on my show today.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. It was great talking to you.
If you like this episode or you're looking to change your career, go to 28andsearching.com or become a patron to get exclusive content sent directly to you. See you next week.